Hello everyone, welcome to another video here on the YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm once again joined by Eccentrix, aka Philip, our expert here of the Yu-Gi-Oh game, of course, and we are going to do another meta-analysis, aka tier list, and this time we're for the first time going to do something. We're going to look into the future a little bit, because we just got information about Infinite Forbidden and what cards are going to be in there. Mainly the Fiendsmith cards and also Moon, the new Link 2, that is a Fiend Light. And therefore we're going to analyze the format that is about to come with Infinite Forbidden. So two big tournaments, of course, being played in that format, being the NAWCQ and also the European Championship. Are you excited, my friends, Philip?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, I told you I want to talk about Info today.
Yeah.
And so I'm super happy that we agreed on talking about the Infinite Forbidden format because oh boy, that set will shake up things.
Oh, for real, for real. It's crazy. It's going to have maybe it's going to be the biggest impact a set had in the last 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
If you like big impact sets in the past, one thing that immediately comes to my mind is Power of the Elements, for example, that had a huge impact. But looking at what we get with this, it might even be bigger than that. It might be a bit of a different impact because I think this set has more of a universal impact on the format, because the Fiendsmith engine is just going to have a universal impact on so many different decks. And in Power of the Elements, it was just different decks releasing. But definitely it's going to have a huge impact for sure.
I'll be honest with you, I think this will be the most impactful set of all time.
Ooh. All right, everyone.
Because whenever I look into the into the set list, I just think like close to every card in there has some purpose. Even a deck like Memento, we all threw into our bulk just some months ago. Just suddenly becomes a very good deck.
Pretty much, yeah, for sure. So everyone, you heard it. Maybe the best set of all time, the most impactful set of all time. Let us know in the comments whether you think that is true. Also, let us know in the comments whether you think we missed something, whether we misrated one of the decks. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like to this video, and now into the action we go, starting off with the deck that won German Nationals and almost won the UK Nationals as well, of course, and that is going to be the Plant deck. Can we even call it Rika at this point anymore? I like to just call it plants, because the Rika part of the deck is just getting smaller and smaller, to be honest.
Yeah, it is just like the plants deck, and I'm just again, you might have seen it, I'm just shaking my head because I still don't know how we can still talk about the deck. I feel like it became tradition. We sit down here, the first deck we talk about is Rika. I already am super familiar with this Jasmine on the picture there. And we always say the deck is close to unplayable, not good. And then it just comes back and wins. So maybe it's just our fault the deck still performs, right?
I mean, some that false propaganda in Europe has to come somewhere, right? Everyone just not reading the cards, everyone disregarding the deck. At this point, maybe it's also partially our fault for sure. But what are we going to do with it this time? I mean, now it has to be on the radar again more than ever, right? People cannot sleep on Rika one more time. How? For real.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. So the deck also gets some small support, I think, in Infinite Forbidden.
Oh no, it's over.
Because I think a Ragnarok gets I think a plant link free, which is decent. I'm not sure if it gets a cut in the end, and I don't think it changes a lot because all the other decks just get power crept so much, and I feel like the next format might be a Drone and Lockbird format.
Yeah.
And so I don't see a real reason to put plants, and I'll regret it. I know that already, and all people will be laughing at me. I'll put it into Rogue.
Yeah, same. That would have been where I would have liked to go. Still, I think it's a reasonable high roll deck, right? If you just want to play something that you want to high roll with. For example, I think, and I said that at German Nationals as well, I hope that Julius Schwarzkopf plays this in the playoff, for example, because it's a decent deck to just high roll your opponents in that kind of a tournament environment, in a small tournament. And therefore, I think for that, it might be a good pick. But for the main event, for the main events in the USA and also in Europe, I don't like it that much either. Then next up, actually the finals pairing of the UK Nationals we have here. We have Branded up next. And I think one fact is combining both. Not only the fact that they both were in the finals pair, but another fact is combining Branded and the Plant deck, and that is that both of them cannot really go for the Fiendsmith engine. because
Yeah.
Rika locks themselves into plants, and therefore just that doesn't really work at all. And then also, of course, Branded locks themselves into fusions. So maybe the most powerful engine ever to be released in the TCG is not going to be applicable for both of these decks, which I think is a huge problem for Branded as well.
Yeah, honestly, I think like, and I didn't think we would be talking about that like 1 year ago or so, where I just feel like all decks, they get new tools to play with, but Branded is the deck that's just like left behind with like its state of the deck.
Yeah, and still they
So,
do crazy all the
yeah.
time. It's kind of like, it's really similar to Rika, to be honest. Like they have like a similar path in which they always get disregarded. I think in a different way, because Branded mainly gets disregarded by the Forbidden Limited list, I want to say, because they have always been getting away with it. Like everyone always
Yeah.
had to get themselves a new deck, but the Branded players could always live on basically untouched. And I think they can still puppet lock if we don't get a list.
Yeah.
And therefore, they have a decent win option just as the Rika deck has going first. I don't know, like I can't put it into high potential because I don't think that's really a way to describe this deck for this format post Infinite Forbidden.
No,
but I'm also having a hard time putting it into Rogue though.
No, I think it likely deserves this bottom challenger spot probably.
Yeah.
Just because of like both decks are quite similar in one regard, because like both of them are just like those super high rolly big combo decks that can just like perform out of nowhere. And also if like your deck does not have a good matchup against those decks, it will always be a tough time for you.
For sure.
And so I feel like this deck is like very, very solid pick. You can always play it likely, but I feel like if you're playing against a good player and he does not have like a very bad matchup against Branded, you will have a tough time.
Yeah, I like that. But the question is going to be whether all of those super high caliber players are going to stick to the deck. Whether we're going to see Nightfall still being with the deck, whether we're going to see Victor still being with the deck. Because if these people stick to the deck, of course, they might still have like very, very decent results because they are just playing the deck on a super high level. But I mean, that's not really something we have to discuss here in the meta-analysis, because the personal strength of a player, of course, is always determined a tournament run. But we are looking at the format in general, and that has nothing to do with the player power of a specific player, of course. We should also do a tier list for players at some point, though. That would be fun as well. But yeah, next up, we have the Chimera Fiendsmith deck. So that is one of the decks that can technically play the Fiendsmith engine. Do you want to start off with that?
Yeah, I really want to, because I have like super high hopes for this deck, and I'll already go off with it. I'll definitely put it into the high potential category.
All right.
Because this is just like the perfect spot for it. So the reason why this engine like super synergizes super well together is because the Fiendsmith engine, like the Link 2 of Fiendsmith that Fusion summons, can also summon Baphomet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because Baphomet is a fusion Fiend monster.
True.
And that's the point where you can just like combine both those engines together. And also like the Fiendsmith is also level 6.
Yeah.
So
it
also gives you like the chances to go into stuff like Lars, Beatrice, or also the Caesar, which Fiendsmith engine provides to like every single deck.
Yeah.
But I also already read it in chat, which is a very valid point. I already said I believe it's a draw format, and that's the thing I'm the most scared about. But if you have like a pick going for like, especially the board breaker approach, the Chimera deck is super, super dangerous.
For sure. And I mean, we saw that like high-skilled, high-profile players for German nationals, Dinka Bui and Jack Verma, they both already played Chimera. Yeah. And I think if it really turns out to be a field-breaking meta game, then the effect of the Chimera to actually like destroy or discard a card in the end phase is pretty valuable. If you like just snipe out the Dark Ruler no more, it's insane actually.
Yeah, also this deck like has the special ability of like Diabolts being very, very, very good against most board breakers. So this is like the one uniqueness the deck has. So I'm very, very excited what the deck can do, honestly.
Same. It should be interesting to see. And I like the general way this deck is playing. So I would be excited and hopeful for this deck. Next up on the list, all the Drytron Andes rise up. The deck that never dies, the deck that in a draw format surely is going to have the best of times. I think we can make it short. Drytron is a nice fun deck. Play Drytron at locals, but maybe play it next time, not at the YCS. So the maybe next time category is, I think, fitting here.
One thing I want to add, the deck gets support in Infinite Forbidden.
Okay.
Which is totally the support the deck did not need, because the deck locks you into Drytrons.
Yes,
or like machines, and that is just like how the deck should have been always.
Yeah.
But just way too fair probably. But if you are like the Spanish player, the top 16, you're my hero. So I hope you perform it at Heroes.
True, yeah, the Spanish guy. I mean, I want to see him having success again as well, but it's just I didn't understand how he did it, and I don't understand how anyone would do it at the NAWCQ ad yours. I just don't think that's very good. So next up on the list, we do see Floowandereeze, another deck that struggles against Stolen Lockbird in theory, and also very specific question: how well does Fiendsmith as an engine deal with Empen?
So the thing that is like good for the Fiendsmith, like good for Floowandereeze, is that if they need to get into their Fiendsmith engine by their Requiem plays, like with Moon of the Closed Heaven into Fiendsmith Requiem, then that play does not work under Empen. But if they do have the Fiendsmith hard drawn, it is a very, very good out for like the Floowandereeze board, because if I remember correctly, the Fiendsmith also has like built-in removal.
Yeah,
it is like equipped.
Yeah. Yeah,
so there is like, it's a bit tough to get there, but you can get there to it being removal. Also, I don't know if there is like any side decking options with Fiendsmith. I don't know. We have the official translation now, but it's the spell of the Fiendsmith.
Yeah.
Which like has the option for you to get like into some tagged cards, like Archid Eccentric probably. It's like one that comes to mind. So
Archid Eccentrics.
I said eccentric.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing also is, we basically, with every meta analysis that we did over the last couple of months, always said that Floowandereeze is going to be the best shifter deck that you can play. And I think for the first time in quite a while, this might not be applying anymore, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like the matchup against Yubel is probably horrible for the deck.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And so that's why I would put it into Rogue. And maybe even has to be behind
Rogue.
Plants.
Yep, I do agree. We have to put Empen behind that.
Yeah.
And now next up on the list. Finally, a deck you have been already hyping for a couple of months now. You got yourself the entire core, I believe, already. And for the people not knowing what this card is, that is a Gimmick Puppet card. And Gimmick Puppet gets major support as well in Infinite Forbidden. And I'm struggling to say that it gets healthy support, because the support it is getting is actually quite dangerous, if you ask me.
Yeah, it is very, very dangerous. And I'll be honest with you, I think the support is like exactly what the deck needed, because like its shell it had already was super bad.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that the deck got like many cards that do not need you to play like the bad old stuff.
True.
And yeah, I think like the uniqueness of this deck being always able to punish decks relying on board breakers is a very, very big concern I have when building my deck. And so I think everyone will have, because you will just likely, depending on the number of people playing this, and it doesn't always only need to be like the best players, it needs just some players, and you're getting unlucky that if you're building a deck focusing on board breakers, you might have 2 losses in Swiss already.
Totally, yeah. Definitely, I think that's a huge factor. Like, we saw, for example, lately those matchups between, for example, Plants versus Branded, where like it basically was completely impossible for the going second player to interact at all, because like going first, Plants build a field uninterrupted that never ever could be broken by basically any deck in the game, and then going first, the Branded player just Gimmick Puppet blocked. And that's what I'm afraid of as well, that like some decks just get completely unplayable because of an FTK, a viable FTK again being in the format, because that is what this deck is trying to do. They're just trying to win the game on the first turn of the duel, burn their opponent's life points to 0, easy peasy. And yeah, just the pure existence, as you just also pointed out quite nicely, is going to affect the format. I don't know whether this is going to be super good. I don't know whether it's going to be super hardcore represented in top cuts. Don't really know, but I think just the existence of it, like comparable to the existence of Mystic Mine, is just going to dedicate the process of deck building quite hard. And I think
I want to add some things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you rank it, I want to add some things because I think that's important. So the first thing of it is like, even though the field spell makes the stuff like unaffected on the field to monster effects that are non-XYZ, the deck can still be stopped by a lot of hand interactions or hand traps, because like a lot of them are like special summoning from their hand or so.
True.
And there you can like Ash Blossom, and so the deck can still be hand trapped. There are like different things where I'm a bit scared about, which is like if they have like Horus access, they just summon a Photon Lord and they just like immediately trade with one of your hand traps.
Yeah.
Immediately.
True.
And also the deck has like the option of, even though it's not very super common in the OCG, it can do that. It can play 3 triple tactic thrust and a copy of Give and Take. And Give and Take is an old card, I think, from Duelist Pact Yusei, which says like you target one monster in your graveyard and special summon to your opponent's side of the field.
Let's go.
There is a good Gimmick Puppet you can summon to your opponent's side of the field. I don't know if that will be standard or so, but it is like still a threat I see with it, like just effectively turn skipping one turn of your opponent, and then you can just like try again to perform your FTK.
Yeah, true. I think everything below high potential would be incorrect, and therefore it would either be high potential or even challenger. But I think with us not knowing too much about the deck, like we usually like to put those kind of decks into high potential, and I think I would also put this into high potential personally.
Yeah, I think me personally, I would put it in challenger, even above branded, but I can see you putting it into high potential at a top spot probably, because still the deck has some save ways to deal with it. The problem is, do people specifically put cards in their side deck for the Gimmick Puppet FTK, like Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, or I think DDD something Leonidas?
Yeah.
Which prevents effect damage. So that's a question I have. Do they really want to side or dedicate 3 to 6 side deck slots only for Gimmick Puppet?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah, same. That is going to be very interesting to see whether how people are going to address this deck in the format. Yeah. And next up the list, we have a deck that so I just ranked this in at the top of high potential. That's okay with you, yeah?
That's of course okay. Yeah.
So next up the list, shoutouts to Aaron, the person that hopefully is going to solve Infernoids until Euros come around, the one person tryharding so hard with the deck. But now we're going to give you the realistic breakdown of what we think about Infernoid post-support. What do you think, Philip? Is this going to be a deck that can be met with high potential, or do we just recreate another rogue deck here?
So I'll do the thing I always do with decks I will put into maybe next time.
I'll
start with saying something positive about it.
Okay. Not like this.
Because the thing I actually forgot is like I forgot to add the Fiendsmith engine there. Yeah. Because that engine, of course, also synergizes super well with the Drytron stuff. With the Infernoid stuff, sorry.
Yeah.
Because as I already said, like the Fiendsmith engine can summon Baphomet, but what it can also summon is Infernoid Evil. Which is like the most important thing of the deck, probably. Yeah. The thing I'm a bit scared of is like the million bricks the deck plays. If we had like a card like that grass looks greener, we would be talking. But I think without that, I see too many bricks I would be thrown in my deck. And then I don't know if there is probably, just hypothetically, maybe a better Fiend pile than Infernoid.
Most likely, if you ask me. More than likely. I could see it in a rogue, but I think it would actually be also fine to just throw it into maybe next time. And that's where you want to go, right?
Drytron. Yeah, I would put it in maybe next time, but definitely above Drytron. But the deck still is a bit scary, I feel like, because it does have very, very good effects in there.
For sure.
But I just don't feel like they can pull them off often enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we go over to the Kashtira deck next. Of course, long in the
Yeah.
format already as well. I also did a Forbidden Unlimited list prediction in where I was saying that I think Dimension Shifter would be hit. If Dimension Shifter would be hit, I think I would have an easy time just throwing this into Rogue or even maybe next time.
Yeah.
With Dimension Shifter still being around, I think it's dabbling around the strength of Floowandereeze, right? Like both decks not amazing, but both decks having the upside of Dimension Shifter as long as
Yeah.
it's still legal. So maybe just the end of Rogue. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the end of Rogue is a position where it deserves to be. For myself, but I might be on a rampage if I say that. I feel like that it would also deserve its spot and maybe next time.
Yeah.
Because I don't really see a reason to play Kashtira right now. Because we have reached a point where probably like the best deck of the format, Snake Eye, can also play Kashtira if they want to.
True, true.
So why would I only play Kashtira if I could play Snake Eye?
Because you can
Kashtira
play
cards?
Shifter. There you go.
Yeah, because I can play Shifter, I guess. But I don't know if that is enough because I don't see the potential of Kashtira right now generating enough advantage under Shifter to not be just like killed turn 3.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm the most concerned about. The deck is just like lacking some combo line, I feel like, because the Draco's Hex stuff right now doesn't feel perfect to me. And so, but I think like Rogue is still fine. Probably the deck can steal some wins, but I would be surprised if even one of those top 6 Euros probably.
I'm calling it now. I think one Kashtira deck is going to top Euros, but let's see.
Yeah, probably.
There's always a bunch of people playing the deck in general, I think. Therefore, I could definitely see it. Next up on the list, the deck that is never having any major success. Voiceless Voice. I've been preaching it. I think I also said it in our last meta analysis. I definitely thought this is going to win like some big tournament because I just liked the consistency of the deck. I think overall we agreed on actually giving quite a good rating to this deck in our last meta analysis. But in the end, it really turned out to not deliver overall. Like the most annoying thing I want to say with this deck is it does have some representation in most of the top cuts. Like 3 or 4 players usually end up being in there, but it never goes any further. Like when you see that there's Voiceless Voice players in top cut, you can basically take bets on them getting knocked out either in the first stage or the second stage of top cut. They never move on to the later stages. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like this deck, and I was for a long time I was a big fan of the deck. I always like a bit overhyped it. I didn't think it's like the best deck of the format or so, but I always overhyped it a bit. But I think right now we have reached a point where Voiceless Voice is definitely power crept. This deck would have had to like come out like 1 year ago or so.
Yeah.
Like when Kashtira was around, like at that time where the power level of the game was a bit lower.
It would have been really good then.
There, I think it wouldn't have ruined the format. I think it would have just been like a very good deck.
Yeah.
But like the game has just advanced one step too far, where I feel like Voiceless Voice needs major support to be even considered a deck better than Rogue.
I agree. It's definitely it's weird. It just does its thing, and it's like it's okay what it puts up, but it's not like groundbreaking. And the most annoying thing even is it has the tendency to brick. Like I would say the deck definitely is like a solid pick if it would just have like an almost if there would almost be no bricking. But the amount of times I've seen Voiceless Voice players bricking is just so big. And then the upside of not bricking is just so mediocre compared to other decks when they don't brick. So I really am struggling to find actual reasons to play the deck. And therefore,
I feel like
it's tough to rate it. It's really tough to rate it over Rogue.
Yeah, I feel like you're always like a bit on the edge with the deck.
Yeah.
To like be either closely winning or being completely crushed.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I get with some decks as well, and I don't think it feels really rewarding. I think this is a pick that only got its success if good players play it who have like the goal to just top an event. But like you already said, to advance any further, this pick is just horrible.
Yeah, seems like it. So do we put it on top of Rogue? That's a bit harsh, but I think that's where it has to be, right?
I think it would be top of Rogue. Yeah, I see it a lot stronger than the other decks in Rogue, but I see it also a lot weaker than Branded.
Yeah, I do agree. All right, next up on the list, the deck that surprisingly in the end was picked by Joshua Schmidt for German Nationals.
Yeah.
And he was the only person topping with it in the end there. And that is Melodious, of course. And Melodious, yeah, still lacking that real big success. It also came kind of close in South America. I think it got second place there in the points qualifier, so it almost made Worlds through that. But in the end, it never really had that big result so far, even though I think the engine had the potential in the last format to have that big success. But now with the upcoming format, that is going to be a lot harder because I like comparing what the Melodious engine can do to what the Fiendsmith engine can do. Just it seems a bit uneven. It seems a bit favored towards the Fiendsmith engine, if you ask me.
Yeah, so the thing I feel about it is that I think Melodious is still a lot better than a deck like Voiceless Voice.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
of a simple reason. The deck has some uniqueness in itself. So I'm not talking about like being able to play a lot of hand draws, because that's a thing a lot of decks can do.
Yeah.
But the deck has like a tool like Aria that makes yourself untargetable. And also Schuberta looks very strong in the next format with being able to out the Fiendsmith stuff, being able to shuffle away against Yubel, the Yubel monster, so they don't get to Phantom of Yubel.
That's very fair.
And there I think the deck shines, so it has some uniqueness. Also, before we recorded, you talked about like how good Gamma is as a card, which is limited.
Yes.
Cypher MK Gamma. And the deck can play Herald of the Orange Light.
Yeah,
which
true.
is effectively an even better Gamma.
Absolutely. And
so
unlimited.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
And unlimited. That's what I was just saying. Like, you can even play free.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. So I think the deck is still a challenger deck, honestly. But I don't think it's better than Branded, because the deck still lacks a bit of power.
Yeah, I do think so as well. Behind Branded seems pretty good to me. Also, just adding, yes, it did actually win a tournament, of course. Herman Hansen won the Swedish National Championship with it. One thing I want to add to that, though, is it was only, please don't cancel me for that, the Swedish National Championship, which had roughly 100 players. And additionally to that, it was Herman Hansen. Like, we talked about it earlier. You probably could have given him an ABC deck, and he would have had a good shot at making a deep run with it. So you sometimes just have to disconnect a deck from a player. And Herman is just an outstanding player in general. So the deck choice for him did not matter that much as it does for the general format when talking about just the decks itself.
Yeah, I agree. So I think you need to really think about what the Swedish Nationals tells you about the format there, or if it's like more of a story of a player. And I think it's more likely the second thing.
Yeah, agreed. And then, I don't know, you said it earlier. Was that already during our meta-analysis? Memento, a deck where people, I think it was before the recording, so you can say it again. What was your first sentence about Memento earlier?
Oh, I don't remember, honestly. What did I say?
You said, that's a deck where everyone basically was just always throwing these cards into the bulk, and now all of a sudden, because the set that we're getting now, the set Infinite Forbidden, is just basically only consisting of crazy good cards, there's also crazy good Memento support in there. So we can now fish all of our Memento cards out of the bulk again. Not that I would ever do that because I have way too many cards in my bulk, but still, it's actually a really good support that is coming there for the deck. And I'm personally excited to try out Memento, actually. I really want to try it out because it seems very fun to play and exciting.
Yeah, the deck actually looks quite solid. I don't think so thing I'll take before. I don't think it's the top meta deck of the format. I don't think that is where it belongs. But I think the deck has some very good, very solid stuff it can do, because a lot of its cards are written very good. They're solid as a starter.
Yeah.
Or like if you have multiples of them, it's still not very bad, because like the fusion is like quite good.
Totally, yeah. Agreed.
And so that's where I gotta say, I haven't figured out like all the lines you can play, because the deck is, I think, it has a lot of lines you can play. So I don't know the whole potential of the deck, but it feels like it's a very good contender.
I want to like the potential of the deck is unexplored. We don't have the best of information about the deck in total yet, so it's one of those underdogs where people don't really know the full story yet. And with those, I personally like to put them into high potential. Maybe high potential is not completely fitting, but there is potential for the deck. And as we only have one category that implies potential, that would be high potential. Would you be okay with that, or do you think that's just too high?
Yeah, no. I think high potential is actually perfect. I would put it at the bottom of high potential.
Yeah, fair.
Because the reason is, so what I want to add is, I think the deck has very, very high potential.
Yeah.
But I think it will end up being closer to Rogue than to Challenger.
Yeah, might be, for sure.
Just because I feel the deck doesn't have enough advantages for yourself to like do that heavy lifting with the deck.
Yeah. I see that.
So you need to do a lot of lifting with combo lines and stuff, where you can just like pick up another deck that is just better.
Yeah, agreed, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested, and I think I'm calling it now. There is going to be at least one Memento top in either NAWCQ or the European Championship. I can see that.
I'd go with it. I would go with it. I would even go like there's more than one, but I wouldn't say a safe number.
Let's go. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And I mean, that would be, of course, a very likely deck to see on feature event as well, because it's so
definitely
so new. Speaking of new, a card that is just newly released. It's not going to be an Infinite Forbidden, but it's already out now from Battle of Legends Terminal Revenge. Arguably the strongest card released in the entire set. I don't think even that is to be argued. That is definitely the strongest card released in Battle of Legends Terminal Revenge, and that is, of course, Phantom of Yubel. And now already with like the first big weekend of World Championship qualifiers behind us, mainly in the Oceanian qualifier, we already saw the impact of Phantom of Yubel, because I think in total, 10, I will repeat it, 10 Yubel decks made top 64 in Oceania, which is such a big number, honestly. And I mean, then you can just even pair the deck together with the Fiendsmith cards. Okay, I see we are dividing between the two, right? Let's start with the pure version first, okay?
Yeah, so the reason I think we should divide is because I think so now from a very logical standpoint, a lot of people have already spent a lot of money on a Yubel stuff and now want to think, how good is the deck if I do not add the Fiendsmith cards to it? Because we know Fiendsmith Engraver is a secret rare already.
Fair, yeah, absolutely.
And I think the pure Yubel deck also is a very solid deck.
For sure, agreed.
It's not bad, but it lacks some stuff. A very important thing I want to mention at least is we know that Summon Sorceress has got an erratum in the OCG.
Yes.
But even if a Forbidden Limited list might drop you for Euros, there is no reprint set anymore as far as I know. So the card will, even if a list might unban it, this card will likely not be available for Euros.
True, absolutely.
So this is the thing I want to add, because the biggest problem I see in Yubel is that it feels very, very hard sometimes to like bridge all your engines.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing the Fiendsmith deck provides to Yubel, is it's like kind of the glue between all your stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I think you played a lot of Yubel in the last time, right?
Yeah.
And a thing I see is that a card like Dark Beckoning Beast is a very, very good starter.
Totally.
The problem, though, is if you don't have access to your Yubel cards already, the card becomes a lot worse.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the card alone is not doing enough, or is barely doing anything actually for the pure version of the Yubel deck. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a problem I see with the deck. That's the thing, like a card like Summon Sorceress could solve, but we won't have it.
Yeah.
And so you're like relying more on your Yubel stuff. And I'll be honest with you, like those cards alone are often not that good.
Agreed.
Yeah, and so I think this deck is good, but it's just like it is missing something, and that's like exactly the Fiendsmith stuff.
Yeah, I think we could definitely agree when already talking about the Fiendsmith cards that when comparing Yubel Fiendsmith and just Yubel, Yubel Fiendsmith is going to win out and it's going to end up higher in our ranking here. So now just the question is, where are we going to put the weaker version of the deck, just the pure Yubel deck? I think it's definitely at least a rogue deck, even as a
definitely.
as a
I
pure
think it's a
version.
rogue
Yeah.
deck. And I think it's higher than plans,
Yeah.
but likely lower than Voiceless Voice.
I like that. And now that we already talked about it, I think we're also just immediately going to go over and talk about Yubel Fiendsmith.
Okay,
When
you
we're
wanna
already
get
at
the
it.
elephant out
Yeah, sure.
I
Let's
see.
just do that. I mean, we can already move this one so easy. And this one, I think I will already make a statement. I don't want to rate any deck, including the Fiendsmith engine, below high potential. Because I think just the engine itself is just so powerful.
Yeah,
So I
Kashtira.
don't think any deck that includes those cards can be lower than high potential. Just purely like that.
I mean, I think we're talking about Yubel Fiendsmith, and you're saying you don't want to put it lower than high potential. I think that's the biggest understatement I've ever heard.
There
This
you
deck
go.
belongs in top meta.
There you go.
Is probably the best deck of the next format. I'll say it right now.
Ooh, okay,
This
okay.
is the first challenger to Snake Eye we might see in a while.
All right. That's big words.
I don't know if it will end up being better than Snake Eye, because Snake Eye Ash is still just a hell of a card.
Absolutely.
But it is the first challenger I see to the deck, because honestly, the going first of this deck is hella cracked. It is maybe the best end field I have seen since Goki.
It's very, very crazy. Absolutely. I do absolutely am on board with putting this into top meta. I do absolutely also have my fair doubts whether it is going to be the contender for Snake Eye, whether it can really wear them down, whether it will actually be the best deck of the format. I still think if we don't get a Forbidden and Limited list, Snake Eye is still outperforming this deck just because it can play so much non-engine, and the non-engine just has to be readjusted then for decks like Yubel Fiendsmith. But that is bringing up a decent question. What even are cards that you want to run against this deck? Probably you want to run Roland Lockbird. Probably you want to run Dark Ruler no more, right? What else is there?
So that's the thing I want to say is really tough against Yubel because the deck can adapt quite well. So the reason I think the deck gets so good because of Moon of the Closed Heaven.
Yeah.
That card just is the glue that glues like all the engines. The deck can go into Beatrice lines, and so
Totally.
it can then adjust its end board always a bit. So you can end on stuff like the new Fiendsmith fusion that is a bit like Hot Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Where you might have a chance to play around some stuff like Darkra or Droplet in some cases, because you also have like access to your Unchained stuff, where you have like maybe a trap, which lets you play around a bit, or you just go for those like high power end board because you don't really lock yourself into Fiends, as far as I know, where you can like enter multiple negates. Also the Rudras, like we got rid of a lot of Omni negates, but the Rudras just got released, being a crazy good card.
Yeah, the Rudras definitely part of the end field there for sure. Also, Appaloosa, like the field that they're building, you just genuinely made that statement that is maybe the best field you have seen since Goki days. And yeah, what is a typical end field like this looking like? We see Phantom of Yubel, we see Appaloosa, we see Varudras, we probably see some Unchained card, like maybe Rage on the field, backed up by a trap card. So it actually is it's a huge field where without non-engine, you basically cannot play through at all.
Yeah, it relies a lot on how good their hand is. But they will, just because of Closed Heaven, they will always have a very good board, even though having like only the chance of getting 2 bodies onto the field.
Yeah.
But the deck, I also think, has a very, very high skill cap.
Yeah, for sure.
So, which is a very good thing, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
So, like, depending on what they want to build, I think there is a lot of ways for them to adapt to stuff. And 2 things I also want to say. First of all, the deck has a very, very interesting dynamic with hand traps because of Phantom of Yubel hitting the field very early.
Yes.
Which actually devalues the first hand trap you use. And the deck has a crazy good Tenpai matchup, which we will talk about later, because the card Phantom of Yubel just doesn't affect the Tenpai monsters. It just like overrides their effect. At least that's how they ruled in the OCG.
Yeah.
So it can like effectively negate stuff under the Sangenpai field spell, like under the Sangen field spell, under Sangen summoning, which is very, very good in the matchup.
I expect the same thing to be applying for the TCG because like it does make sense why they ruled it that way. So I would also assume it's going to be that way in the TCG. And yeah, we've found our first top meta contender, rightfully so, I believe. Let's see how well those numbers are going to be for NAWCQ, which is going to be the first tournament, of course, in this format. Just give me a number. Top 64, how many Yubel Fiendsmith players?
Oh, that's tough. I'll say more than 18.
Wow, okay. That's almost 1/3. All right. Everyone be prepared for almost 1/3 Yubel Fiendsmith players. Let us know in the comments what you think, how many players we're going to have in top cuts with the Yubel Fiendsmith deck. And I think that is going to be it for this deck. And we're moving on to a lot older of a deck. I think whoever does some kind of content and mentions Purrely, it is mandatory to shout out Dinkang Pham. Greetings go over there. And the Purrely deck, of course, one of the budget decks nowadays with its reprints from Rarity Collection 2. Do you think it has anything going for it for the upcoming format? Is there like one thing that comes to your mind where you say, hey, this is why Purrely might be okay in the upcoming format, might be good even?
I mean, if I wanna hop on like some hopium, I would say the deck has targeting protection and a good tower. But if I'm being serious, I feel like the deck is one of the craziestly power crap decks I've seen in a while.
Okay. That's a tough statement.
Yeah, so the deck is okay. So it's not like I see someone play Purrely and I feel like, yeah, you have been like, you went missing in 2019 or so. Or lost in 2019. It's not like that. So the deck is still like somewhat playable. You can compete with it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's not a deck I would expect at more than like 2 numbers in the top cut, honestly. That's the thing I feel like.
Agreed. Actually, it was decently successful in the Oceanic World Championship qualifier as well. Po Jang still stuck to the deck. And I think there even was a Purrely player in top 4 in the end. So it almost made Worlds and just barely missed out then in the end. But with the Fiendsmith cards coming out, it is going to be pretty tough. I can't put this into high potential. It's just not the category for the deck. It also doesn't make it to Challenger, so there's only one spot to put it. And chat and YouTube viewers, you might think we are being a little rough on a couple of those decks, but I also don't think Purrely is going to have too good of a time. Now, just the question is, where in Rogue can it be put in? And I think it's better than Flu, and I'm struggling to put it in front of Plants, but it would be in front or behind of Plants, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's exactly the 2 spots where I would have put it. Exactly those 2. And I think since Plants won German Nationals, we might actually put it behind.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
That's probably the best explanation. So the deck is fine, but the feeling I always get is with all those discards the deck has to do, the deck is like lacking a way of like printing card advantage, because that's what the decks right now effectively do. All the decks you have in the top spots are decks that like generate off of 1 card a billion card advantage. And Purrely is absolutely not that deck, because that deck tries to go onto Noir, try to draw a best case, and then just passes and waits a bit.
Yeah, that's true. I also think there's not much going on for the deck. But also, we don't need to waste any more time on it, as it is a deck that has been around for quite a while. Same thing goes for Rescue Ace, to be honest. Has been in the format for a while, and has already in our latest meta analysis always been going down and down on the list, to be fair, because we never really found a reason to play this over any of the other fire decks. And
it will continue this trend,
It will continue this trend. And is this trend now even going to end up in the Rogue section? It probably has to, right?
I think it already was in Rogue the last times we were talking about it.
Might be, yeah.
But the last times it was at the top of Rogue. Right now, I don't see a single reason to play Rescue Ace, honestly.
I would even be more likely to play Purrely, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the same.
Yeah.
So the thing with Rest Case is still the deck is a very solid deck. The deck always had a problem dealing with 2 hand traps.
Yeah.
And playing into bigger boards, I feel like. The deck was fine playing into boards, but not a deck we would consider good into boards, I feel like.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's exactly the problem I have. So why would I play a deck that struggles against hand traps but might do a good board field when I could play a deck that is good going second, partly into hand traps and building a board? Also, the deck kinda, even though being a fire deck, being able to play the Diabellstar engine, the deck does not synergize very well with Snake Eye Ash or Poplar, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I do agree. So I just put it
what are we?
in the middle
Yeah.
there between Flu and Purrely.
Yeah, I think I gotta add something. So what I just meant is like, yeah, you can play Poplar or so, but the deck is not nearly as good as other decks summoning Poplar, searching OSS, and using it.
Agreed. So next up on the list is a deck that does need some more talking again, because it is way more recent, or at least it got way more recent support, because the deck itself is quite old, but now with the new support, Ritual Beasts are absolutely back into the discussion. Ritual Beasts even qualified through the South American World's Points Playoff. They won the South American World's Points Playoff. Wow, I finally got that sentence out of my mouth. And Ritual Beast was the deck being piloted there, and therefore it is qualified for a World Championship, which is already quite the sign. And also, very competent players in Oceania also played this deck. I think this deck was twice in top 16 of the South American World Championship qualifier as well. So the deck actually already getting some nice results in. And already spoiled earlier on, it is a shifter deck that pretty surely has to be considered a better shifter deck than all the other shifter decks currently available.
Yeah, that's by a mile. Yeah. I'm very uncertain where I want to put it, because I feel like the deck is very good, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Just like all those value looping the deck can do, and then being able to have like a good amount of non-engine. Being able to play shifted deck kind of reminds me of Melodious, and you know where we put that one.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think High Potential would be the obvious pick for one of these new decks where you can't really tell yet where it is going. But this deck already proved itself now on the first weekend of the new stuff, so I think I'm down to also put this right into Challenger. I'm down with that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm a bit like now hesitant is I feel like Gimmick Puppet might be better than both decks we put in Challenger. So I might want to readjust it a bit higher, also that we don't put like all the new decks in High Potential.
Yeah, but the thing is with Gimmick Puppet, it's still I like Gimmick Puppet and High Potential, and we have explained the High Potential category plenty of times before. It doesn't necessarily mean that the power level of the deck ends up being below the Challenger decks. It's just we aren't 100% sure yet, because it doesn't have any proof in the TCG yet, and therefore we are like guessing a little, and we are giving it the High Potential tag. And from the High Potential category, then in our next analysis, it's free to move on to Challenger, maybe even top meta, or it may also drop down to Rogue. We had that plenty of times before as well with decks we placed into High Potential. Therefore, I think Gimmick Puppet is fine in High Potential. And this deck here, the Ritual Beast deck, it started out so nicely that I want it up there in Challenger, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. I just want to make a braver call with Gimmick Puppet than being boring and putting all of them in High Potential.
Yeah,
but I think the deck is likely weaker than Melodious. But I think it might deserve its spot in Challenger. The biggest issue I see for the deck is probably that the margin between Challenger and top meta is bigger than before.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think the deck can definitely compete with the other Challenger decks.
100%. I do agree. Very, very interesting deck. Very skill-intensive deck as well. And therefore, I'm almost certain that some big names for NAWCQ and for Euros are going to be on Ritual Beast. I think that's a no-brainer to see. Like one name that immediately comes to my mind, and it was already mentioned in this meta-analysis, I could totally see Herman Hansen playing this.
Yeah, I would have bet money on that, honestly. I would be betting money on that, and I think he's a very competent player. So I would look forward to him playing this deck.
Same. And he loved to play this deck back in the day, so I think it would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, a deck I would not look forward to see anyone playing it is Runick Stun.
You want to share your story of Runick Stun at German Nationals?
I don't want to. You can read it on Twitter, and that's enough.
Let's just say you missed his face in Top Cut. Everything else you can find out on his Twitter. By the way, Icentric's Twitter will be linked down in the video description below. Everyone make sure to give a follow over there.
So yeah, so the thing is, maybe Runick Stun was not the sleeper pick for German Nationals. But let's leave it at that. And with my experience as a Runick Stun player, I'll now do the complete like opposite way. I say this is the deck for maybe next time.
Oh no. You don't get away that easy. You may have not made it happen, but I don't think this is so bad.
I'll explain
it's still the best trap deck. Okay, go ahead.
I'll explain you why. The reason is I think that the Runick, like the stun decks, all of them, always in history, have performed the best when people play one deck. Because stun decks are mostly not able to adapt very well to stuff. Yeah, because they have to like have like a certain number of cards that safely hinder your opponent from playing.
They have a very linear game plan, you could say, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, they have a very linear game plan. And I think with all the decks we have in the top meta, challenger, and high potential category, the stun decks are not able to adapt to like the situation right now. Because yeah, Skill Drain is still a very good card, which is probably the only reason to play the deck. But every deck playing Fiendsmith cards now has an out. Yeah. Being Fiendsmith, discarded, search spell, search eccentric, scale it.
That's true.
And that's the thing. Yeah.
But maybe next time is still rough, you know?
I mean, I would rather play Flu and hope for Shifter than Runick Stun, but
you can just play Runick Stun and also play Shifter, I guess?
Yeah, probably you can, but I don't know if that's the play, so that's why I feel like it's like probably the perfect spot for maybe next time, because if the format gets like more again to like one deck, the deck might become better. But right now, that's just my feeling that we have too many challenger decks to it being able to adapt. And that's why I also think we saw 0 of them topping at German Nationals. Because the format was very wide at German Nationals.
Yeah, we did see 0 topping, that's true. Also 0 topping at Oceanics as well. And I've heard like rumors that there were a lot of stun players in general attending, so maybe it really is not the time. Okay, you know what? You got me. I will put it on top of maybe next time, but it is in the maybe next time category now.
Yeah, so now it will win Euros. Unlucky.
Probably, yeah. Me as an actual stun enjoyer, that hurts my heart to put this into maybe next time, but here we go. And speaking of here we go straight to the top, I guess. Then because there is Snake Eye Fiendsmith. I said it, Fiendsmith, the engine itself, just absolutely bonkers, absolutely amazing. I'm not rating any of the Fiendsmith decks bad today, and that's the second Fiendsmith deck that we have. And I think still that this is going to be the best deck, if you ask me. I think it is going to outperform the Yubel Fiendsmith deck. Not by a lot, maybe, but I still think it's going to dominate still if we don't get any kind of Forbidden Limited list. Therefore, I hope you agree we can put it still into the first spot of the format.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think so. If we would have to name a number, I think if we like have top 64 at Euros, I think we have about 30 of them topping. Honestly, I think the deck is just so good. I think like close to 50% of it as like top cut representation is so good. The deck is so good. Like actually, the deck only needed Moon of the Closed Heaven. The deck, we now know the card will be important in Infinite Forbidden, and so I don't see any reason for it not being the best Snake Eye variant as well. Yeah. The only thing that might be different for us than in the OCG is effectively that we still have more copies of Snake Eye Ash.
Yeah.
And so that you might not want to dedicate the slots to Fiendsmith because you think your consistency is still enough.
Fair.
I still think the engine is still good enough to just play it. I would rather play Snake Eye with 50 and Fiendsmith cards than Snake Eye at 42 or so without them.
Yeah, I see
But
that. I see
but
that.
that might still be a reason for people not playing the engine. But I mean, just the option of putting, like, if you only have a Fiendsmith card to like just go into like Caesar or so, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just overall too powerful of a deck. The like, and that's the thing with the Fiendsmith engine. It doesn't require you to do anything crazy. Yes, it may require some spots in your extra deck and also in your main deck, of course. But it's not like you have to reorganize your deck for it. Like, you can just play your same deck and then you just play the Link 2 and you go swiftly into the Fiendsmith stuff as well. And therefore, I think it's a no-brainer to put these cards into it there. In my opinion, it's going to be the best deck. And I think the question is going to be whether the other two Snake Eye variants that we still have here on the list, are they still going to be in top meta, or are they going to fall down and be in the challenger category?
So the thing I want to say is, I'm very sure the Fire King version is a challenger deck.
Yeah, I see that.
We saw it performing very well, and that's a thing I made a misconception at German nationals, and like every nationals probably, is that those events are more like have more rogue than other events, just because of very logical reasons. Mostly the best players in Europe or in the world play the best decks, and obviously all the French players, as an example, decided to play French nationals, while mostly Germans decided to attend German nationals. And so just like the amount of top tier players is like fewer, and so more rogue is being played, and Fire King has a lot better rogue matchup.
Yeah, absolutely.
To make a small analysis for German nationals and explaining why I think that at European national, the event where all the good players will be, the deck will fall off.
Yeah, I like that. And then pure Snake Eye, it's probably still still deserves a spot in top meta, right?
I don't know, honestly.
I
think it's probably just the best challenge deck. So the thing is, now there are like multiple Snake Eye variants you can play. One is, of course, still the Kashtira version, which I think got a lot worse because a card like Fenrir doesn't trade very well in those big boards that the Yubel and Snake Eye decks provide right now, I think.
100%.
Yeah, and also I think like what the OCG played is Millennium Snake Eye, the new Millennium cards, which looks interesting, but not groundbreaking to me.
Yeah, agreed. I think we can put it on the top of Challenger because, like, of course, Snake Eye has been discussed plenty of times before, so I don't think we need to use any more words on it. Also, we've been doing this for a while now. I think we have to get through the remaining decks kind of quickly, so let's stop talking about Snake Eye. Yeah. Next up on the list is Sprite, and of course, Sprite is hilarious because Sprite just won the SAWCQ Worlds qualifier, and they qualified for the World Championship. New thing about Sprite is the very small ice barrier package where you can now also consistently make Totally Awesome again. Yeah. And that, of course, gives the field a little bit higher of a ceiling because you do also end on an Omni Negate with that. But you, of course, got a question, does that reliable bring this deck out of Rogue? And if I'm answering my own question now, I personally would say no.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm still a big fan of the deck, honestly. I just like that you can just summon again the toad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to like crash the raid. Thank you for raiding.
Yo, Fafa, thanks for raiding. Everyone coming over, we're currently doing a meta-analysis of the post-Infinite Forbidden format. So everyone sit down, everyone listen. We are almost done, but of course we are still going to finish this. This is also going to be a YouTube video, so we're mainly going to talk to each other. With me is Icentrix. Icentrix, for example, also casted Austrian Nationals with me and is a powerhouse in analysis and has multiple YCS tops in his resume. So everyone listen up, and thanks, Fafa, for the raid. Appreciate that. Hope you had a great stream. All right, talking about Sprite, do we get it out of Rogue or not? Probably it's still Rogue, right?
No, we won't get it out of Rogue, but I'm still such a big fan of the new engine because like getting consistently back to your Totally Awesome, having access to double cross, going into another Toad again, getting you follow up as well. I just think the deck is super cool, quite competent. Not enough if you want to like top Euros probably.
No,
but there might be one or two people actually piloting the Sprite deck. I hope maybe Ding Kong Fam picks up the deck again, throwing Purrely in the bin, playing Sprite again.
Yeah,
And
now the
just
Ding Kong Thumb
so good.
rating. The Ding Kong Thumb rating specifically. Is it before Purrely or is it after Purrely? I think it's in the region of Purrely at the very least, I would
Put
say.
it above Purrely, just because it's cooler than Purrely. And maybe, no, I cannot put it above plants. But the deck is cooler than Purrely, put it above Purrely.
Yeah, sounds
The
good
deck-
to me.
The deck also feels a bit like it plays better into hand traps,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be fair.
I absolutely agree. I think so too. So, speaking of long gone times where we had a Sprite format, we also, of course, had a Tearlaments format. And nowadays, the most popular version of the deck, of course, is being paired with the Horus engine. And I think the deck actually had like some decent showings again, making top 8 of Oceanics, for example. But let me ask you one question. Is it somehow possible to also include the Fiendsmith engine into the deck? I mean, it is possible, right? But is it worthy?
Yeah, I think the Fiendsmith engine is so good. Likely you just throw it in.
Probably, right?
But I don't. Oh no. I gotta disagree with myself for a second because I forgot that the Fiendsmith engine takes like 4 to 5 slots.
Oh, in the extra deck. Yeah,
I
true,
don't have
true.
those slots, honestly. I don't have those slots. I don't know, to be honest. The deck just feels like it's finally rotating out of the meta until Konami just thinks about, let's put all the names to 2.
Maybe.
And
Pit Colors comes
maybe
back,
put
and
all the
then we're back. We're back in business.
Oh yeah, if Kid Colors comes back, we are talking. But right now, I honestly think the deck is in the brew of rogue decks and is probably one of the worst ones in them. Because I just don't see like the deck just and I keep repeating myself, the deck just feels like it lost its ability to play through the million interruptions your opponent has.
Yeah.
Right now, the deck is just like a glass cannon deck with no real like payoff. Because what are you ending on? The stuff you end on is like worse than all the stuff Yubel does of one card. And you have to do so much heavy lifting for maybe being stopped by one Ash Blossom.
Let's put it behind Purrely, maybe?
I think behind Purrely is like the slot where we probably have to put it.
Looks good to me. And now another deck that deserves some more talking again, and that is going to be the almighty Tenpai Dragon strategy. And Tenpai, of course, gets really, really, really good support, which is now confirmed to be an ultra rare in Infinite Forbidden as well. And it's definitely good support. Like, the card they're getting is nuts. Just now, of course, so the power level of the deck is definitely rising. But the question you have to ask, and we have to ask ourselves, is the position in the format overall still maybe going to get worse? Because it's playing worse into the Yubel Fiendsmith deck that is so high up there, and worse into the Fiendsmith engine in general. What do we think?
Okay, so I'll say something that might be me a bit coping to again have finally a 3-deck format. Because I just love those 3-deck formats. I think Tenpai might actually be positioned very, very well in the next format.
Mm-hmm.
I think people have been underestimating the deck for quite some time now. The deck right now is solid. It's not super good, but it had some decent results. And I think the deck has some things we shouldn't forget about. So in Infinite Forbidden, a card called Malchami Purrely is released.
Ooh, true.
A card you only want to have in your deck going second.
Yes.
And Tenpai being the deck that wants to go second anyways, can play it. Also, as far as I know, the deck is also playable with Dimension Shifter, especially with the new support. So there might be a reason to actually play this deck and just hope to draw one of your 6 powerhouse cards.
I like it, actually.
So like, the thing I want to say, I want to add one thing again. The deck has a horrible matchup against Yubel, which is the biggest problem. And one thing we see in the OCG right now, which is hilarious, is Tenpai players are going first against Yubel, hoping to draw Heatwave. And Yubel players have actually partly adapted siding Heatwave for the Tenpai matchup to counter-stun Tenpai.
That reminds me of the Spider-Man meme where all the Spider-Mans are pointing at each other. you. But yeah, I think the fact that Mold Chummy is going to come into the format in general is going to infect, no, not infect. It also is going to infect, but also impact the format quite a bit, quite significantly. I think in the OCG, Mold Chummy did not have the major impact that it is going to have in the TCG, because I think in the TCG, without the existence of Maxi, it's just a staple, if you ask me. I think Mold Chummy is going to be played as a free op in so many different decks. At the very least in the side deck, I could even see it in the main deck, honestly.
Yeah, I think in the main deck, it depends a lot on the thing we see right now is like that a lot of decks have those like at least one discard in their combo. And if you have to discard one card anyways, like those cards that are like either bricks or cards that are only good going second or so become a lot better because you can just discard them if you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like what you said. I think this could definitely be a free deck format. And honestly, Tenpai being one of the decks in a free deck format seems scary. Like having that kind of a crazy going second deck in a free deck format, like you basically always risking having your opponent being on this deck when you decide to go first. It's just it's rough, it's tough. But yeah, I think with Tenpai, it's going to be seen. I could see this deck going down in the power rankings, maybe ending up lower in the end. But I think the potential is there for it to be really good for sure.
Yeah, that's I think it's like super interesting about the deck, that how it will evolve. But yeah, I think it's still a bit behind the other two decks, and so I think like the position is actually perfect there.
Yeah, sounds good. Then Labyrinth. I think Labyrinth, another deck we don't have to talk about very long, as we've already been doing this analysis for quite a while now. It's going to be another rogue rating for Labyrinth, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The deck still has some things it does different than other decks, but we have reached a point where probably all the decks at the top positions, or like not all, but like especially the Yubel deck can set up Omni Negates, so the Ruma Car mechanic gets a lot worse. And I think at that point, it's probably just one of those matches in the middle of Rogue.
I'll put it behind Purrely, in front of Tearlaments. I would rather play Labyrinth than Tearlaments, I think.
That's pretty harsh. I think it's a bit low, but I think I can see it, honestly. I can see it.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me, I might have put it behind Plants, but I think you actually are fine there.
Yeah, I mean, Sprite at least actually had a decent tournament run, and Labyrinth,
I guess.
Like, they don't top at all anymore. It's like the deck is almost non-existent in top cuts at the moment.
I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess you're right.
So yeah, we gotta see. Maybe they adapt to the format in a better way, and then at some point they can shine again. But right now, I just don't see anything possible for them. And the last deck actually is a deck that we can talk about a little longer again, because it's one of the new decks from Infinite Forbidden, and that is going to be Whitewoods. Do you think people are going to play the Whitewood deck as a pure deck, or is it going to be more popular as a splashed engine into other decks like Runick Whitewoods or something like that? What are you expecting?
So I'm very happy we kept like a super interesting pick as last.
Yeah.
To talk about. So what I think is that the interesting thing or the scariest thing about Whitewoods is that we are actually reaching a point where we might see Centurion cards being more splashed as an engine.
Mm-hmm.
And which is always scary because of a card called Tricking of All Calamities. I don't know.
That one also very scary, but
that was also scary, but it's like the hot red, like the Calamity. We all know the card Jack Atlas one.
Yeah, of course, just the hot red dragon Archfiend King Calamity.
Yeah, and that's where it might become a bit scary. So I still think it's like a more pure deck with some engines being splashed in. I don't know which engines you can all throw in there, but I feel like the chances you have are limitless. The only engine that is like a safe bet, in my opinion, is the toy engine. The deck just it's like a custom engine made for Whitewoods, honestly.
True.
So I think you always want to have it. The thing I see the biggest problem is it reminds me a lot of Sword Soul, where it's a deck that does very solid stuff, but nothing where I feel like, yeah, that's your win con, that's how you dominate.
I can see that.
And that's a thing where I'm scared the deck might only be a rogue deck, but being an interesting pick at least, because you still have some room for innovation. The cards also don't lock you, but you're quite reliant on 2-card combos, where I'm feeling a bit like the deck might be, it might not be the format in a deck where Fiendsmith 1-card combo piles shine the most.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
So like it's one of those decks where there obviously is potential with all of the with like new cards. Of course there's potential because there is still time with them to discover them. But I would also agree that with the decks that we're seeing right now in high potential, it just can't keep up. I don't see them keeping up with Gimmick Puppet, for example, which might even be then in the end like one of the challenger slash in some universe maybe even the top meta deck. Speaking about Gimmick Puppet, and Whitewood's just, as you said, it just doesn't line up for a control deck to all of a sudden be in there. The other control decks that are there available, like Ritual Beast, for example, if you can even call that a control deck, they're just looking way more solid on paper. And therefore, Rogue is probably where we have to put it. I think we can put it into Rogue with some hope, and therefore somewhat high-ish in Rogue.
I think we could put it at the top of Rogue. Maybe, I don't know if we want to put it above Voiceless Voice, because that tech has proven itself, but I think it's definitely in the first 3 slots somewhere.
I'll put it behind Yubel, okay? Because Yubel, I think, is also pretty good. But top 3 spots is nice. I like it.
Yeah, so because the thing is, why I wouldn't put it in high potential, because I just feel like Memento has more cards where I read it and thought like, yeah, that stuff is good. That's the key card of your deck. Where I felt Whitewood had more cards of, yeah, that's cool, that's solid, but where is my one unfair card?
Yeah, totally agreed. Like the deck reads super cool. Like all the cards, I also read them, and you're like, oh yeah, that's really nice. That's really cool. But as you're explaining, it definitely sometimes you need that moment where you're reading a deck and you're reading one specific card, and you're like, that's why this deck was meta in the OCG, right? That's the reason this deck is so insanely good. And for sure, we have reached quite the point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where decks power level wise have just reached a certain level, and therefore decks that just have a cool gimmick, that are cool, that are nice, that have really good synergy with each other, sometimes just don't end up being enough, even though the potential in theory would be really good. Absolutely. And that is our meta-analysis. Thank you everyone for watching until now. Hope you made it until here. If you did, definitely make sure to leave us a comment in the comment section saying, hey, I made it until the end. I watched the entire thing. That would be really appreciated. Thank you for watching. Also,
don't forget, if your deck is not on the list, if your Sharks deck is not here, tell us in the comments that we missed it and where it belongs.
Absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, whatever you're saying. Thank you, Icentrix, for joining me again. It's always a blast talking about the meta game, honestly. Like, those long videos are always fun. I hope you guys at home also enjoy that. Any last words from the man, Icentrix?
Yeah, thank you for watching. I think we will see a very interesting format, and yeah, that's where we are heading into.
All right. See you soon, everyone. Let's hope this analysis works out in the way that we wanted it to. And we're going to be proven at NAWCQ and, of course, yours as well. See you there. Bye. Bye.